How would you guys like to be given bad news from your representation?
Whose representation?
What you mean? Like your
Whoever is
agent or your
representing,
manager?
whoever that is, whoever your funnel is that you work with, how would you like to receive bad news from them?
Phone call
or text?
And direct.
Very direct.
Yeah,
Don't talk
direct.
around the bush.
Some podcast segments keep being brushed off as light chatter, but when you stack them across multiple episodes, clear patterns begin to show. Patterns that make you question what's actually being asked, why it's being asked, and whether those responses are just offhand remarks or things that get stored, revisited, and potentially acted on later. Listen to this. It's hard not to circle back to this topic after recalling discussions from earlier episodes, especially those Patreon talks centered on who truly prioritizes the business. Joe even revisited this idea a few pods back, asking again about what everyone is building outside the show and how those efforts are progressing. The first instance where he brought up whether they had plans already in motion happened on the Patreon episode titled Lasered and Wrinkled. Joe also mentioned that all he really requires is their focused, uninterrupted attention for about a year. On that same Patreon episode, Pablo Torre appeared as a guest. Joe continued the discussion with the crew after Pablo exited the room. They kept the momentum going with a solid conversation once Pablo left. And even a few remarks Joe made during the Shannon Sharpe interview tie into this larger thread as well. You can see where this is going, right? Now, part of me looks at it and thinks it's just a straightforward question. At the end of the day, it's literally just a question, nothing major to unpack. But the other side of my mind starts connecting all the moments I just mentioned, and for a brief second, it makes me pause and reconsider. Are the answers something Joe actually keeps tucked away for future reference, or is it truly just surface-level curiosity with no deeper intent behind it? It almost mirrors that moment when Joe says, "Y'all in the cast are treating what I'm saying like a joke when I'm genuinely just asking something." That's the vibe it gives off sometimes, and I'm not gonna lie, that's exactly how it comes across to me as well. At the core of it, it really is just a question. No need to overanalyze it or assign extra meaning. So I'll leave that thought right there. But it still sparked a moment of reflection, especially with the noticeable shifts we've been seeing lately. And to be fair, I've already gone on record saying I actually appreciate those changes. Because of that, I can clearly see the direction being aimed for. And hold up, not even a little bit of messy curiosity creeping in here. Wait, who am I turning into right now?
It's obvious that Jay-Z has been dominating timelines and feeds across the algorithm lately. The crew has been discussing him consistently for the past week or so. And I also want to address Jay-Z's comments from the GQ interview where he suggested the Drake and Kendrick battle caused more harm than benefit. I get where he's coming from, especially now that he's in a more mature mindset, removed from the competitive space, and firmly believes that women and children shouldn't be dragged into any form of beef. Allegations don't hold weight without solid proof, but in the middle of a rap beef, the rules get blurry, especially when Drake was practically pushing Kendrick Lamar to step into the spotlight. And listen, this is coming from someone who's been a huge Drake fan for years, ever since those Degrassi Wheelchair Jimmy days I mentioned before. So yeah, the Jay-Z and Nas beef is still something we all remember. Granted, I was young at the time, but it still had a massive impact on hip-hop culture. I even recall when Jay-Z and Nas eventually made peace at System Park, and I know plenty of you remember that moment as well. When it happened, I actually ran to my dad and said, "Dad, come here. Jay-Z and Nas are squashing things at System Park. You've got to see this." I still remember that clearly. It was a huge moment. Man, that was years ago. That really was a big cultural event. Y'all remember that, right? And I understand it now. Back then, social media wasn't really part of everyday life, at least not anywhere near the scale we see today. And naturally, that kind of environment only amplified everything that followed. Now, while we're on that topic, as someone who attended the Roots picnic, it only makes sense that he brings out state property. All of them. Freeway, Beans, PD Crack, the Young Guns. Go ahead and bring out Meek Mill too. And imagine if he somehow brings out Miss Jade as well. If you know who Miss Jade is, then you're really tapped in, like fully tapped in. Honestly, you just never know what could happen. What if Tia ends up bringing out Meek and we actually get a Rock the Mic remix performance? I'm just saying, I'm putting that energy out there. I'm manifesting those performances. Whale could even come out and perform too. We might actually see a lineup like that if things line up right. At the end of the day, we'll just have to wait and see.
Second quick hit. I remember that Chaka Khan interview where she mentioned that Mary J. Blige's vocals sounded flat on her cover. Should we really be shocked by that? Chaka Khan has always been known for saying exactly what she thinks. And think back to when Kanye West sampled Through the Fire for Through the Wire. At first, she wasn't a fan of it at all, not even a little bit. But over time, she eventually came around and accepted it. All in all, this episode felt pretty relaxed. The intro was genuinely entertaining. Watching them joke around and call him Marvin from the Drake album was wild. They never really let that man live, but he gives it right back, so it balances out. The whole situation with Brandy and Shine is honestly wild, just chaotic all around. This discussion was one of the rare times the Newark couch wasn't aligned. Some felt Brandy should be left alone. They argued there's no real reason for Shine to keep pressing her about a relationship from years ago, while Ice stood on the opposite side, calling her out for not being truthful. I'm with Ish on this one. I'm not going to lose sleep over someone denying something that happened ages ago. They don't share kids, so why is this still even a talking point this many years later? Even if the roles were flipped, my opinion wouldn't change. It's easy to see how strange it looks trying to convince outsiders about an old connection or situationship after so much time has passed. At some point, people need to focus on what actually matters, instead of getting caught up in that. Personally, I wouldn't stress over something that insignificant. As always, drop your thoughts and main takeaways in the comments. This one is a quick breakdown, and honestly, some content will stay short like this, because when the key points are clear, there's no need to stretch it out. I don't always feel the need to overextend things either. So if you're keeping up with the content, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Catch you in the next one. Peace.